Are you wondering if you're staying in your relationship for the right reasons? Maybe you've been waffling back and forth wondering if this relationship is healthy. How do you know if you're staying because it's truly right for you, or if you're in your relationship for the wrong reasons and it's time to move on? Today, I'm going to talk about the big mistake most people make when they're trying to decide whether to stay or go, and my 3-step process for figuring out the right answers for your relationship. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. Hello. It's so nice to have you here. It is a beautiful day in Northern California. Shockingly, it's always a little chilly here. And again, this gotten a lot of questions. I feel like I've been answering this question in different ways lately. I've gotten a lot of questions from people writing in. So and when I think I've answered something, but I still get the questions, and I'll, send the episode saying, hey, did you listen to these? And they're like, yeah, but I have something, it's a little different. I figure more people likely have that question too. And this is a little different than what I've answered before. I have, is your relationship worth saving? Again, come on over to the website. You can find that. I have a YouTube video actually on that also. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, hello. So if you're on the platform, it'll be easy, but there's again, always do a search on my website, on YouTube, is your relationship worth saving? So I've done that. I did something a little while ago about how do you know if you're in love, so we've answered this in some different ways, but today I'm definitely bringing you something a little different. Another way of looking at this, I have a great handout that you can download to help you decide, which I'll link to. Again, you can come over to the website. You can find it on the podcast page. You could also find it on the relationship tips and tools page. And if you haven't yet, if you're watching me on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to me, please rate, leave a review. These are the ways to show your love. I thank you. Oh my gosh, the emails I've gotten recently have been making my day. Really beautiful. Thank you when you write in and let me know that this has helped you. And it's I say it for us, say it again. This is just something I've been doing now for a while, and it brings me a lot of joy. And part of that is because of the relationship we have. That's the joy I have. It really, I hope everyone listening finds something like this that they can do in the world that feels real good. And it doesn't have to be that you're reaching millions. It's, however that is, it feels good. And actually, funnily enough, now that I'm saying that, I'm going to be talking about that later in one of my tips. So let's get to it. So let's start. Okay, I have to start with saying first about this right, wrong thing. People get very into this. Is it right to stay? Is it wrong to leave? Is it right to stay even if it's not so healthy or not? What's right, what's wrong? We definitely, Americans, I think especially, although I have this with my Australian and UK clients also. But I really find Americans get very black and white with things more than other cultures. You can write in and tell me if I'm so wrong about that, but it just seems that way to me. And maybe, again, that's because I'm dealing mostly with Americans. But there's really this very strong, there's a right way and a wrong way, Abby, and that's it. And there's not. So I'm going to say that first. There's no one right answer to, are you staying for the right reasons? It's not. I know it's comforting to think there is, and that, you can break everything down to the sum of its parts and then you make a decision, but that's not how it works. That's not how anything works, really. I don't believe, you're here listening to what I believe, so you could have something different. But no matter what else, if you stay in a relationship, it has to be healthy for you. And let me tell you this, even if you're staying for the quote unquote wrong reasons, which we'll talk about, you can still work on making it as healthy as possible for you. And so what do I always say? We're all doing the best with the tools we have. And, as we grow and change, our tools change and what we're better at changes. And this is part of why I do the podcast, so that you can have new tools, new ways to look at things, new mindset. So again, don't get into, it was wrong the way I was doing it and now it's right or anything else. That's not kind to yourself. And I don't like it. So I say throw it away. So, and I do, even myself, I use the terms right and wrong, but just because I think it's so much part of the vernacular. But what I'm really meaning, so I want to talk about that, is healthy or unhealthy. That's what we're talking about. And what I mean by a healthy relationship. So, what the heck is a healthy relationship, Abby? I mean, we all know. Come on, it's basically that you're feeling safe, you feel secure, you feel cherished, you feel respected. It's whatever your things are. You feel like a whole, really what I think it comes down to, because different people want different things in a relationship for it to be healthy for them. But I will say that you feel like a whole person in your relationship. That, to me, no matter what else, you need to feel like a whole person. You don't rely on your partner to make you happy. It's not their job. Your self-esteem is intact. You don't live. This is really healthy relationship. You don't live with fear-based feelings on a daily basis. Again, I'm going to get deep into these today, but you understand that the power to feel good in the world rests solely in your own hands. That's what you get. That's a healthy relationship. When I talk about an unhealthy relationship, I'm talking about a relationship where there's, of course, the things, obviously any kind of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, any kind of abuse, clearly unhealthy, right? This is not good. But let's get real. There's other stuff too. There's neglect. There's codependency. There's where you're looking to the other person for all your emotional needs, kind of the codependency stuff. When you're in an unhealthy relationship, the way you know is because you're living most of your time in some fear-based feeling. There's most of the time you're in resentment, you're angry, you're hopeless, you're helpless, you're worried, you're anxious. Maybe you're even depressed a lot when you think about the relationship. So I'm going to say this first. I need you to go easy on yourself in this process. If you're listening right now, it's likely, well, maybe you're just someone who listens every week because you feel like you get little gold, even if the question doesn't feel like it is exactly for you. But a lot of you listening right now are really concerned about your relationship and you just don't know, and is this right, and all that. And I need you to feel the love for yourself that I feel for you, the grace, the gentleness, the ease. Like, please. It's not healthy or okay for you to be beating up yourself in this process, or even rushed or impatient. It just bear with the process a little bit. I know how I always say, again, I always say a lot of things, don't I? But you know how I just said, people doing the best with the tools they have. You have to remember you've been doing the best with the tools you have. This isn't a time to beat up on yourself. Why have I stayed so long? What's wrong with me? Whatever. This is a time to acknowledge that you're here with me right now. Right now we're here. Hello, love you. Kisses. You're here with me right now because you want to get better. You want to be happier. And I can certainly help with that. I really can. But you can't start on any path of self-love, acceptance, I want to have a healthy relationship from self-loathing. It's not going to work. You can't start from regret and anger at yourself, from self-flagellation. Like, it's just not going to work. So please, right now, even as you're listening, I want you to take a minute, even as you're listening, just take a minute and notice that your brain maybe is anxious. Oh, let her just get to the point, Abby. I want to know the things. Give me a 3-step process. Just calm down. Take a minute. Take a breath. We're going to get there. But that impatience, that shortage consciousness is part of what's hurting you. So let that go as much as you can. And let's get to it. So let me talk first about, remember I said there's a 3-step process and there's a big mistake. Here's the big mistake. And it leads in to my 3-step process because, I'm fabulous like that. And I'm going to move my mic a little bit. Okay. So let me talk about what not to do. Sorry, I'm gathering my thoughts. What not to do when you're working on yourself and your relationship. And this is the big mistake. What I see people doing when they're trying to decide something, really anything, whether the relationship is healthy or not, whether, you should stay or go from a job, anything, I see this all the time, is that you create a pro and cons list, right? Here's the pros, here's the cons. The problem, there's a big problem with this, is that you can have, there's a few problems. One is that you can have 20 things in the pro column and, 2 things in the con column, but those cons carry more weight. They matter more. They're deal breakers. They're the big issues. So it doesn't matter that you had 20 things in the pro column, because the two that are the cons, the things that are bad about whatever it is, or unhealthy, or whatever the word is, they erase everything in the pros, so that's the big problem. One of the big problems. The other issue with making a pro and cons list is that you're trying to break down a love equation using your analytical brain. And that's not going to work, my friend. It's not going to work. You got two sides of your brain, yes, they work together. Okay. They work together. I'll link in the show notes too. I'll find a good article about left and right hemispheres and how they work and all that. But, so they do work together, but we know that each hemisphere is sort of better equipped in different areas. You'll hear people say left brain, right? And your so-called, the left brain is really better with things that are linear, methodical, math, sorting out the facts, right? But when you make a pros and cons list, that's the side of the brain you're using when you're making a pros and cons list. That's that, analytical side. But remember that the facts you're so sure of are skewed. And I need to say that again. I've talked about this a lot. When you think of something as a fact in your head, that it's not a fact. It's something that your brain is lying to you all the friggin' time. And I'll quickly just recap two things just to really drive this home. You're not looking at things in an objective way, the way you think you are. And that is because of two main things. One is that confirmation bias, which I've talked about before. And that's really how your subconscious will search for and favor information that supports something you already believe. And it'll ignore information that doesn't support what you already believe. So if you believe your partner doesn't appreciate you, you're going to see a lot of evidence supporting that. That's your confirmation bias. You will prove yourself right. That's what it does. When you're making a pros and cons list and using your left brain to discern the facts, you're literally writing down ways your brain has lied to you as you're writing all that down, right? Because of this confirmation bias. So you're like, well, I'm leaving. My relationship is unhealthy because my partner always puts me down. And number one, what's your definition of being put down? What does that mean? I've talked about this a lot. The definitions we give things, and maybe they do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to belittle your feelings at all or minimize them. I am saying that people have different definitions for things. I think I shared it recently in a podcast, but Gary and I have gotten into it sometimes, my man, because he'll suggest something to me and I don't want to do it. I hear him, I hear what he's saying, but I don't want to do that suggestion. And so we'll talk about it a little, whatever. And then maybe the next time I'll ask him for something and he'll say something like, well, you don't listen to my suggestions. You don't listen when I say things, so I don't know why I bother. I'm like, so because I don't agree with what he suggests, or I don't go do what he suggests, he sees that as I don't listen to him, right? And we've had to, that took many, many years of different conversations to break that down. I want to tell you, it wasn't all that easy. But do you see what I'm saying? So you might see something as being dismissive or minimizing or whatever. But again, it's really, if you believe these things, maybe you grew up in a house with that, and then you get, in a relationship and you're treating your husband like your father or your girlfriend like your mom or whatever, that without realizing it, this is that, again, that subconscious, that unconscious that sort of pulls things. So you're sure you're seeing something, but you're really not. And I know, because I've walked away from many a conversation with, this just happened with a client the other day, just happened, where thank God I stopped her and I said, what did you just hear me say? Because she was reacting like I had attacked her. And I thought, I'm missing something, because I adore this client and I don't attack people. And she said, well, she heard what I said in a very attacking way, a very critical way. And of course, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I just remember the feelings that we were having in the talk. I don't remember the content. But, when we sat and talked, we really got to, where that came from. And this is something, again, that it was actually her older sister, not her mother, but her older sister is a lot older than her and kind of mothered her growing up. And I remind her of the older sister. And so there was some stuff there, which was great to work through. I mean, this is all, us therapists love this stuff, but But all to say that she obviously was doing this with lots of relationships where things kind of poked up, bosses and things like that. And so you really have to be careful of what you are so sure is a fact and true. Your confirmation bias is leaning you towards seeing something. And I know it's hard to believe that you don't actually see things that are real because you're thinking, oh no, I see this, this, and this. But I'm telling you, you just have to believe me here. You're wrong. I'm not saying you never see those things. I'm saying they probably aren't happening as much as you think, or they're not happening maybe in the bad way that you think, or you're ignoring the other things that are there. You're not ignoring because you're not doing it on purpose, but you just literally, they don't hit. And I know that's really hard to believe. You're like, I'm listening. I see my world, but you don't. And then, of course, what I always talk about, the other thing, like the confirmation bias isn't enough to screw us up. You've also got your reticular activating system, or your RAS for short, which is also working against you. That's that network of neurons located in the brainstem, which acts like a filter between your conscious and your subconscious. So specifically, it takes instructions from your conscious mind and passes them on to your subconscious. And you're always doing it. You're always giving it instructions and things to think about or look about, and you just don't realize it. And that is why when you've been thinking about something, or maybe a person, and they suddenly call or something, and you think, oh my God, I was just thinking about them. I can't believe they called. That's not really that. I mean, you're putting that energy out in the universe, but there was probably something that you didn't even realize where their name came up, or they mentioned they were going to call you around this time, or the example I always use, the RAS, is if you've ever bought a new car and you haven't even bought the car. Sorry, you're thinking of buying a new car and you see the car you want to get all over. You just see it everywhere. That's your RAS. So, when we get into that thinking that, oh, my partner's always judging me, my mom is always criticizing me, again, the RAS hears that as an instruction or order to look for those things. Look for my mom criticizing me. And then you see it all the time. But again, the same with the confirmation bias. The really scary part of that is that the RAS will filter out anything that doesn't match what you're consciously thinking. So when your partner is loving and kind or whatever, or they're being appreciative, you're not going to see it. Again, even though you find that hard to believe, it's the truth, or you will see a very small portion of it. And so that's why when you make a pros and cons list and you're writing down your facts about things, that's why they're not the facts, because you have been, it's like someone wrote 10 words on a piece of paper and told you those were the only 10 words in the world. There's a lot more words, but you're just told, oh, this is it. This is the truth. This is all I'm going to believe. This is how a lot of stuff works, right? That for good or evil, but it's how it works, where we are given something narrow and told that that's all there is, and then that's all we believe. Obviously, racism and bigotry and hatred are all based on the same thing. And so even though there's so much evidence to the contrary, people, can't see it. And that is how strong our confirmation bias and RAS are. So what you really want to do when you're thinking about your relationship is so that's all, again, left brain stuff. When you're thinking of all these facts, you really want to use the skills more of your right brain. And your right brain is really where you've got more, your intuition, your curiosity, your playfulness, your flexibility, feelings, all those things are sitting in your right brain. And when I tell you, oh, think about your relationship, and I said to you, well, be very analytical and linear, or be creative, problem solve, be playful, be loving, think about your feelings about something. If I'm telling you those two things, which one are you going to choose? I mean, think about it. Of course you would choose the right brain. Some of you out there are going, oh no, Abby, I would choose the left brain every time. And that is from fear. I say with love, I love you so much right now, but that's crazy. I say with love. It's not crazy. I'm sorry. You're not crazy, but it's not healthy. If you're that afraid of your feelings and love, and you're so afraid of being taken advantage of or whatever, you're like, oh, I got to think of the facts. I got to do, that's just your fear. And by the way, that makes that worse and worse when you're focused on your fear and you're trying to, again, make a pros and cons list or do whatever. You're going to be in a very scary place. And this is why a lot of people regret leaving relationships or staying or whatever, because they've been making decisions out of fear. And you got to come from a place where you feel calm and loving, not from a place where you're full of fear-based emotions. It just doesn't work, right? Okay, so this brings us to my 3-step process for figuring out if your relationship is unhealthy or not, okay? Are you or are you staying for the right reasons? To me, those questions are kind of the same. They might not be to you, but I realize I'm using them interchangeably, so I'm going to out myself right now about that. So, are you staying for the right reasons? Let's stick to that. But really, that means, are you staying for healthy reasons or not? I think. So, all right. So the first thing, there's a step one. So 3-step process to this, to answering this question for yourself, or these questions for yourself. And number one is going to sound antithetical, but it's what you have to do. You have to get into a better feeling place first. I know. You're like, but I feel crappy and I'm trying to decide what to do about my crappy feelings. Yeah, nope. You got to actually feel better. You have to feel happier, calmer, clearer, all those things to then make the choice. I don't know. I'll explain this a little more, and that's in whatever no matter what else you do, no matter what decision you're trying to make, it's important to get yourself into a good feeling place first before you make decisions. Okay. Any decision you make, because when you're in that fear brain, you're not thinking effectively or coming up with creative solutions, right? That's what's happening when you're in your fear brain. You are shutting off access, by the way, we've talked about this before, when you're in your fear brain, you're shutting off access to your prefrontal cortex and where all your good thinking and problem solving is anyway. So as you're sitting in bad feelings, and this anger and this resentment and this, and you're going to write down that, how are you going to make a healthy decision from that? You're not gonna. You've got to get into a better feeling place first. So you kind of open your brain up. Think of it that way. Your brain gets very closed when you're in fear-based feelings and thoughts. So your brain becomes very narrow because it's running from a bear. That's what your brain is doing. It sees it as a life and death situation, so it gets very narrow. If you're running from a bear, you don't think about all the great solutions. You're just running. You're fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's all you're doing. You're not, the only job is to get away. It's not to sit and think, what should I do? I wonder what should happen right now. You can't pause. You have to go. And that's that impatience you feel to make a decision. That's the fear that's driving that. And again, not healthy. And there is one tool that is hands down the best when shifting yourself from this kind of yucky feeling place to a better one. And that is something called the next best feeling thought exercise. I go deep into that on another episode, which is called The Most Effective Way to Solve Any Problem. So you can search for that on the website. You can come to the, again, podcast page or the show notes, the relationship tips and tools page to this podcast episode, and you will find a link to that. But again, you can just do a search on the site, The Most Effective Way to Solve Any Problem. And the next best feeling thought is what it's all about. It helps you get into that better feeling place. You're not going to be all, what do I always say? Can't get from shitty to giddy. You're not going to be all, woo, I love the relationship. Everything's great. You're just going to get into a place where you can think clearer is really what it is. You're going to get into a place where there's not so much fear driving you. And when you do the next best feeling thought, I say it a lot on that episode, but I'm going to say it here too. You aren't trying to make yourself feel better about the relationship. You're just trying to get yourself to feeling better, period, just of life. And that's what the next best feeling thought helps you do. And I'm not going to go into it here. It's so important. It would be really wrong of me to just throw it away right here, because it's something I use with all my clients. It's something I use myself all the time. It's probably the one tool I come back to again and again and again. I mean, it's just part of my daily life at this point. So I can't say enough how important it is to go listen. But overall, if you go for a walk in nature, right? If you like nature, I hate nature, but should say I hate it. I'm not a nature gal. I'm a city gal. But if you like to go walk in nature, that will often put you in a better feeling frame, right? It will. Just being out in the sunshine, going to exercise, playing with your dog. So if you don't feel like going to do the next best feeling thought exercise, okay, I think you should, but being bossy Jewish mother that I am, because it's so effective. But if you're just looking to just feel better and calmer, things to do that. If you meditate, go meditate. If you listen to a guided visualization, watch one of my videos on YouTube that helps you feel inspired. Listen to a different episode that helps you feel excited or something. You just want to get yourself again, it's not about solving the problem in the relationship. That's not what you're doing. You're just getting yourself to a better feeling state. And when you do that, you open the brain up and you have more creative solutions and more problem solving that you can do. And that's really how you're going to be making this decision, right? That's where how you're going to be getting to that. And now I'm going to give you the next thing to do. Step 2, once you're in that better feeling place, I want you to identify your top 3 things. Okay. This is step 2. And what I mean is, so here you are, you're feeling more calm, you're feeling calm. You don't have to, again, be feeling like, oh, my life is puppy dog tails and rainbows, but I do want you to be feeling a little more in a satisfied realm, maybe a little joyful isn't bad, but you're feeling solid, you're feeling content, you're feeling satisfied, you're okay, you feel at peace a bit right now. So that's where you do this. Now you're going to write down the top 3 things. I'm getting real granular on you. I'm giving so specific here because I love you so much. You're going to write down the top 3 things you need in a relationship, that you want or need in your relationship. What are the top things you need to feel, secure, safe, and loved, whatever those words are for you. And you're going to really give yourself a minute to just, meditate on this question, okay? You don't have to do a formal meditation, but you're going to take a moment to really think, okay, get centered, close your eyes. What do I need? What are the things that when they happen, I feel like I'm in a relationship for all the right reasons, that it just feels great. I'm so happy. I feel so in love. I feel so here. Think about when you have felt best in a relationship. What was there? It could be this relationship or another one. What was there? And again, don't get... if the answer is, well, we had plenty of money, that's not it. It's, it might be when you close your eyes, you're like, oh, I felt really appreciated all the time, or I felt respected, or there was just always this feeling that this person really had my back. So those might be your top 3 things. Respect or honesty. Maybe that's a thing. There was a lot of honesty, a lot of transparency in the relationship. Write that. Had my back, whatever these 3 things are. Don't just 3 little phrases or words. Okay. So, and if you need more help identifying your top 3 things, I do have, you can check out my episode or post on how to identify your standards. So again, I'll link to it on the show notes page, and I'll link to it, everywhere. But you can also do a search on the website for standard. If you do a search for standards, it'll come up. And in that, I help you identify your standards and your expectations. And there's a worksheet that's really good. People have loved this worksheet. You can download the little worksheet and do that, and it'll really help you identify your standards. And because this is what we're talking about, right? These top 3 things. So, but I'm not done. I'm going to do something different. Then, so you're going to write down your top 3 things on a piece of paper. Then you're going to rate each thing on a scale of 1 to 6, with 1 being I never get that, or I never feel that way with my partner, and 6 being I get this all the time. I feel this way with my partner, most of the time. Nothing's ever all the time. So most of the time. Okay. That's what you're going to do. So you're going to write them down. Let's say that they were appreciation, respect, and honesty. Okay. I'm making these up. And you're going to write down appreciation. So you're going to sit for a minute and think, in my relationship overall, how much do I feel appreciated by my partner? And 1 is kind of almost never. And a 6 is, very consistently. A 6 is not perfection, because no one's perfect. So get away from that. A 6 is if you feel it really a majority of the time. That's a 6. That's only ever what you're going for. It's impossible to feel something 100%, 10 out of 10. That's not a 6. Okay. So think of that. Now, the benefit of using a 1 to 6 scale, you've heard me talk about this before, is that it makes you come down on one side or the other, right? 1, 2, 3 is that somewhere in the more, a little more of the negative of that, right? That you don't feel this thing very often, okay? You don't get it very often from your partner. And a 4, 5, 6 means, hey, it's there more than it's not there in some way, right? So then you're going to write down your little number. And then I want you to step back. And by the way, there's no 3.5s or whatever. You have to pick a side. That's why the 1 to 6. It's the whole point. So don't get rid of the point of it. Pick a number. And then when you step back and look at how you scored, I want to see, how do you feel? So scores between 12 and 18 are telling you that you're mostly getting what you need, right? Scores from mostly getting what you need. From there, you want to ask yourself, if I'm getting mostly what I truly need, why am I having doubts about this, right? Why am I having doubts about this relationship? Why am I listening to Abby right now if I'm mostly getting what I need? Maybe you've gotten lost and you're focusing on the wrong things, the things that aren't truly important. What steps can you take to get your focus to a better place? You got to ask yourself some different questions. If you score between 3 and 9, that means that these 3 things that for each of them, right, you either gave it a 1, a 2, or a 3. It's clear that your top 3 standards aren't being met a majority of the time, right? So what does that tell you? Mostly, I want you to be looking at yourself. How have you let your boundaries slide? Usually this is about our boundaries and allowing other people to treat us a certain way. And what can you do about it? What positive action steps could you take to make each standard a 6, to make each thing you've written a 6? What can you do? Again, don't think of what you can't do. Think of what you could do. What have you tried before? What worked and what hasn't? How could you maybe tweak something you've tried before to make it work this time? Maybe you tried something before, but you didn't do it long enough. I don't know. Really just brainstorm a bit. I don't want this number to depress you or to make you feel, oh, it's all is lost. Of course not all is lost. That's craziness. And if you've been listening to me even for a minute, I never think that way. So, get your head out of your ass and really think about, what does this mean? And I'll tell you what I'm going to do now that I'm talking. I have a really great handout at the end about your motivations, which we're going to get to next, but I'm going to add this little quiz on there. Okay. So if you want to come and you can download this, which will have this little 1 to 6 quiz with your top standards and the numbers and everything kind of written out on one piece of paper, because I love you so much. I'm going to stop after I finish the episode and go do that. Because as I'm reading it, I'm realizing if you're listening in your car or somewhere, you're going to want to have this all in one place to do. And then what I'm going to talk about in step 3 is also going to be on there. So come on, feel the love right now. Feel the love. Go, ooh, Abby loves me. I feel her love. I feel her warm embrace. Okay, there you go. So, but that, again, this is all about information gathering. This is all about really understanding yourself. And because because if you're scoring between 3 and 9, if your score is somewhere in there, you really need to question your motivation. That's all I want you to do. You got to question your motivations if your score is in 3 or 9. Why am I in this relationship? Really should be your next question. And that brings us to step 3. And really deciding whether or not your motivation is from love or fear. I know, I talk about it all the time. I talk about it all the time for a reason. Because it works, because it'll change your life when you get this. When you really get this and apply it everywhere, changes your life all the friggin' time. So let's talk about it. So you got to identify where your motivations are grounded. Okay, that's really key. And what do I say all the time? You can't base a love relationship on fear. You just can't do it. Well, you can, but you're going to end up with listening to my podcast. So fear has never, ever, ever, ever made a relationship better. Never, ever, ever. It just doesn't work that way. And if you're sitting there right now going, oh, no, it's good if I put a little fear in my man, I make him a little jealous. That's good. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's like saying drinking makes your life better. Yeah, I guess, occasionally having a little drink here and there, but is it really making your life better, or are you just having a little more fun in a moment? It's not making your life better. But it might be giving you more fun in a moment. That's okay. But the same thing with making your partner jealous. That's not making your relationship better. It's giving you this false sense of security in a moment because maybe your partner, acts in a way I guess you're looking for, which I would never look for in a million years. I hate when Gary gets jealous. He doesn't do that anymore at all. But in the beginning of our relationship, there was some jealousy sometimes. And I was like, this is a walkout thing. This is a deal breaker for me. That I'm not having this at all. And I'm not jealous. It's not, I've worked at this over the years, obviously. I used to be jealous when I was younger and get into all that. But as I've encompassed this love versus fear thing, boy, jealousy to me has zero place in my world. I, of course, have a wonderful episode about jealousy. and how to stop being jealous. So you can go listen to that if this jealousy thing is hitting a nerve. But so, and again, I've got a handout to help you identify your motivations, whether they're from love or fear. And again, I'm going to highly recommend you download it. But you can also just write down all the reasons you stay and then go back through and identify whether that's a fear-based reason or a reason based on love. You can do that. You know how now. You've been doing this so long with me, right? So if you're staying, if you write, the reasons that I stay because I'm worried that my partner will find someone new. I've heard this so many times, and they'll be happy. And, if we break up, they're going to find a new person. They're going to go be happy, and I'm going to be miserable and alone. That is obviously very fear-based, right? This is not based on love. You're not staying with your partner because you love them and they inspire you every moment. You're staying with them out of fear. So that's not cool, right? That's a fear-based reason. A love-based reason, you stay because you feel like no matter what, you and your partner are a team and you have each other's backs. No matter what. At the end of the day, it's always there. That's love-based. It's not hard. It's not hard to do this. It's not hard. All you have to do really is sit for a minute and think about the thing and then see how you feel. And you'll notice if your energy goes down, that's fear-based. If it goes up, if you feel about, my partner has my back and we're always a team, and you're thinking of an example of that, your energy is going to go up. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel inspired. You're going to feel lit up a bit, right? If you start thinking about how, they're going to find someone else and I'm going to be alone and they're going to be all happy and I have to, I'm going to be setting up my fake account on IG and stalking them and it's going to suck. I'm going to see them all happy. Obviously you can feel the energy. Very fear-based. There's nothing here for you. If you make your lists and do the worksheets and and do my little handouts and do all the things, and you realize you're in a relationship based on fear, but you don't want to leave, I don't want you to panic. I just want to say that right now. It's okay. You're okay. I got you. I got your back. It's going to happen, right? And you might even be listening to this already going, I know I stay out of fear. I know that this is not good or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe you're on the fence all the time about it. I don't want you to panic if you don't want to leave. It's okay. We're always it's all about progressing. It's all about working on yourself. What you got now is information. You've got information. So, and let me give you another one. You might be staying in your relationship, and I'm going to give you a fear-based one that you might argue, but it's fear-based. You might be staying because of your kids or financial security. Okay? I'm not saying it's not a bad idea. Again, you might be staying for these reasons and they can be perfectly valid in your world. I get it. But they are fear-based. Because you're worried, right? Well, if I leave, I won't have money. If I leave, the children will be a mess and I won't be able to see them every day. And it's fear. It's fear. You're afraid because none of that's necessarily true. You don't know what's true on the other side for sure. You think you do, but you don't. So who knows how it'll all work out? But I get it. It's okay. It's okay. I got you. But your job is to find the love within this and that's working on yourself. I don't know what else to say. If you're like, I'm staying because of the kids, right? Then you can't stay because of the kids and be miserable because that's hurting your children too. So I don't know what you think is so magical about staying even if you're all miserable. I mean, there's plenty of people who've gotten divorced who have married parents. Like, what are you talking? That's not that's not the thing. Or there's plenty of people who are very well-adjusted who have divorced parents. It's not a given that these things are going to happen. So if you're staying, if you decide you simply can't leave, because you don't want to split up your family, you fear what it would do to your kids or your lifestyle. I get it. Wow, we're barely making it on the way we are now. How could we possibly have two homes? Okay, I can't have that be at the center of the relationship. Your job is to figure out a way to be happy in your family regardless, with your partner regardless. Ha ha. Do you hear me? I'm not okay with you living this kind of life. I love you. This sucks. No, you don't wait till the kids leave the house to be happy or to leave. That's not, again, good for your kids. It's not good for you. By the way, I work with kids whose parents waited till they left to divorce, and they're miserable about it. They were miserable all the years. I hear it all the time. My parents should have gotten divorced years earlier. I wish they had. It would have been easier. I hear it all the time from people who are in therapy, even though you stayed together. So again, don't just stop that. Just get real on why you're there. And so I want to tell you how, or a little bit more here. And, I've talked about Viktor Frankl before on the podcast. He's one of my heroes. He is the author of Man's Search for Meaning, if you haven't read it yet. And he said, he has this famous quote that when we're no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And to me, that's what's going on. And if you don't know who Viktor Frankl was, he was a psychiatrist from Austria. He was a famous Holocaust survivor, and he spent his time in the camps trying to help people not kill themselves. He was helping his fellow prisoners find meaning and a reason to stay alive. His pregnant wife was killed, by the way. His parents, they were all killed in the camps. He's in psychology, he's really famous. He founded a school of psychotherapy called logotherapy, which basically their theory is that a search for our life's meaning is the central human motivational force. So, there's a really great article from The Atlantic that I love. I think it's called There's More to Life Than Being Happy. I will link to it on the show notes page and again in the Relationship Tips and Tools blog. So I will link to it in both places. It's such a good article. Viktor Frankl's in it, but it's about this search for meaning versus happiness. It's really good. Anyway, so if you're in a situation that you feel can't be changed, right? This Viktor Frankl couldn't leave the camps, or you can't leave your relationship even if you have sort of a negative motivation. Your question is, how can I change myself in a healthy, loving way so I can find happiness and peace? That's what you got to be asking now. Staying with fear as your motivation, it's just not going to work. If it would work, I'd tell you to do it, but it's not. So it doesn't work because you don't work that way. You're going to end up feeling pretty crappy all the time and listening to my podcast all the time. So, how can you find another motivation? And maybe it's the challenge of finding yourself. Maybe that's the whole reason you're here. Maybe it's to dig deep in your spiritual life. Maybe it's to become a happier person without relying on anyone else to make you that way. There could be a lot of reasons why that's there, right? It's really about how you look at it. I mean, I wrote a whole book called Be Happily Married, Even If Your Partner Won't Do a Thing, based on this very premise that you can still be in a better way in this relationship. Again, the only things I'm going to tell you is that if you are in a relationship, let's take the most severe case where you are maybe being physically hurt, or you feel physically threatened or something. This is horrible, right? How are you going to, I don't expect you to sit there and tell me, oh, I should be loving this guy. I'm not saying that. But for some reason you don't feel like you can leave, which I really hope you would. But if you don't feel like you can, for whatever reason, I'm still going to ask you to dig deep and find a way to be happy for you. Maybe not happy about this person, but happy with yourself, that you feel okay. And a lot of the reason you're not is because you're staying even though you know you should go. But doing the work, we get to that decision. We're like, well, I'm not going, so I'm a piece of shit, and I have low self-esteem, and I can't do anything, and what's wrong with me, and I'm a loser, and I can't make myself go. Can you see how being in that place doesn't help you make good decisions? So you would still go do everything I just said here, because you would go back to the next best feeling thought. You would go back to finding that place. From that place is where we find our inspiration, our motivation, our help, our next best step. Which isn't always all the way to leaving or something. Sometimes it's something on the way, but you have to have faith in yourself enough. If you're listening right now, you do. I love you. I'm here. So find that space to not necessarily be happy with the person, but finding a place to be happy with yourself in this space that you're in this circumstance you're in, because that will radiate and that will help you get to the next place. Okay. I hope I made that really, really clear. Okay. Most of you listening are not in that situation. You're in a different one, but you're staying for your reasons. There's a lot of them that are based on low self-esteem and, low confidence and all. And again, I got podcast episodes on all the things, so go listen. But I want to say to you right now, you keep going to the final decision to stay or go, but instead If you do this first, I promise you it will be easier to come to that decision. You're leaping too far. You're trying to run a marathon and you haven't even run to the end of the block. I need you to run to the end of the block. That's all I need. I need you to walk to the end of the block if that's all it is. And that is by that next best feeling thought. That is by starting to feel better in your day-to-day about who you are and what you're doing. From there, again, your brain starts to open up. Possibilities happen. Options come to you. Opportunities. Your whole world will change. So stop beating yourself up about it and start just doing these little pieces of work in between. That's really, really what it's about. It's, no matter what, you got to do the work. Because it's so imperative that you find a way to be satisfied and joyful despite your circumstances all the time. In the end, whether you stay or go, I want it to be from love either way. So doing the work it has to happen no matter what your final outcome is. I don't want you to leave and hate this person. That's not helpful. That's not going to help you in your next, I say a lot, wherever you end this relationship, you'll begin your next, because that happens a lot. People marry and get in relationships with the same kind of person over and over. I can't tell you how many people have said, every person I'm with cheats on me. Every person I'm with is jealous. Every person I'm with doesn't appreciate me. And each relationship looks different when you get in, but then it goes back to a lot of these old same things. And it's because you haven't done the friggin' work. And I'm asking you to do the work. Okay? I'm asking you to do the work. I say this because you deserve to live a full life. I want you to have a life full of growth. What do I always tell you? That's the definition of success, is a life of growth and joy. I could throw meaning in there. That's the definition of success. That's it. Growing as a person, not giving up on yourself anywhere along the way. I had 9 rehabs. I didn't give up on myself. I kept trying over and over. And it many times seemed like nothing was ever going to change. Of course it did. I've had that at other points in my life too. It's just, I learned this stuff a long time ago, and I just don't give up. Not even that, I just understand that this is for my greater good. Whatever's happening is for my greater good somewhere. Life is happening for me, not to me. So how do I shift this? How do I think of it in that way so that I can grow to be the kind of person I want to be? And maybe being in this relationship where you're not getting appreciated, let's say, or not feeling loved, is for you to grow, to love yourself, to appreciate yourself, to find that for yourself, right? So if you can make it a priority to live a life full of growth, joy, and meaning, your answers are going to become clear. I'm telling you right now. You are not going to need me or anyone else to tell you if you should stay, or if this relationship is healthy. Are you here for the right reasons? That is how you find your clarity. You can't find clarity from that fear-based, overwhelmed mind. There is no clarity there. You got to come around the side. You got to come in the other way. And that's why I'm here. That's why we're doing our thing together. It's, again, don't beat yourself up on the way. Don't regret. Don't look back and think, oh, why didn't I, whatever. No, you're doing it now. There's some Chinese proverb, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. That's just what it is. I think that's a Chinese proverb. I apologize if it's not. But that's just what this is. Yeah, it would have been great. It's great now. Let's do it now. Okay. That's it for today. Definitely come. I'm going to go fix that, make the handout even better with all these things, with your little test and all the things. Definitely come get that. abbymedcalf.com/podcast. Come on over. Come on, get it. It's really going to help you. And I love having this conversation with you today. I love your questions. They really help me grow as a person. They really help me decide what I'm doing and why, which is always amazing and always growth, always giving me meaning and always giving me joy. There you go. It's right there. I love you. I adore you. I see good things for you. There is great love here for you. It's here. Just come on over. I want you to have it. All right. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you soon.